Oh, hello everyone, and welcome here to the Daily Quest episode number 37. I'm Solid Jake, and today we're talking about Elite Tauren Chieftain, arguably the, first or second best warrior in Heroes of the Storm at this point in time. And there's a lot of reasons why he is at the very top of the list. But before we actually do hop into our discussion, I just really want to hear everyone's opinions as to, well, the new Blizzard news. They released a 10-second video, which is really just an audio clip of two new heroes that are entering the Nexus. Heroes reveal is the hashtag, or hero reveal. And do I have my sound on? Rip the dream. I can fix this. Yes. And let's actually listen. But yes.
You want me to show off?
Oh, it's so loud. I think that's Wizard. And, the first time I listened to that, I thought it was a demon. But now I'm thinking it's not a demon. I have a hunch that they're both Diablo characters. But I really don't know. But I think that's D3 Wizard, the first one. That's my guess. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Who those two heroes are going to be. Are they the next two heroes coming to the game? Probably. And I wonder how long it'll be before Blizzard actually releases them, but time will tell. Someone says in chat it could be Medivh. You know what? That definitely could be Medivh's voice, is that second one. People have said Zoltan Cool, a lot of different theories here in the chat and on Twitter. Dahaka, nah, I don't know about Dahaka. Didn't sound too Zergy to me. But back to the point. So today we're going to be looking at 2 or 3 replays, time depending, of e.t.c. And basically, e.t.c., he has one really common style that we see for competitive play, but there's a few different ways of playing for sure. And then there's a little bit more of a unique style that we've seen King Caffeine running, and a few other players have echoed a very similar style in the past, and we can just take a look at those two builds. So first replay, we actually have 2 replays set aside for this build on the left side, and then we have a variant of it that actually uses Stage Dive instead of Mosh Pit. So we'll be watching that replay as well. And then I labeled the other one Slip and Slide ETC. This is a little bit more of a utility type ETC that's a little bit different, less about just getting those big stuns and those big guaranteed mosh pits. I'd say it's slightly harder execution, but it also has a little bit more safety with it. So first off, we're just going to start by talking about the first build and watching those replays, and then for a later part, we'll go into the full, the style of the Slip and Slide build and watch the replay of King Caffeine and explain why that style exists and what makes it beneficial. So opening things up here, crowd control ETC, well, it's pretty darn straightforward. I mean, you can literally hit Control 1 and pick your talent at every single talent here, and just grab those first talents, because it's very straightforward. You go for the increased range on the power slide. Again, this is about making sure you get those big stuns. You have that max range here with your power slide, 25%, picked up at level 1. At level 4, you go for the double neck guitar. That's going to give you an additional width there on your power slide, and you go 30% faster. So now your power slide, you're more agile, it's harder to dodge it, and it's going to be hitting in a larger area. This makes it very easy to set up big mosh pits. It's the safest and best way to do it. And when you grab these 2 talents, level 10 mosh pits, I mean, that's a lot of times when people play this style ETC, they're waiting for the 3 to 4 man mosh. They go in with the power slide, and they immediately launch the mosh pit after that, and they rely on that as being their big setup to win the fights, and it works. It works very well. Level 7 loudspeakers, it's just an additional knockback range. We're talking about crowd control. This build is all about that. You're going to power slide in, and then you're really going to displace the enemy team in the early games or in situations where you don't have mosh pit. This is great for securing kills. It's great for rotations, and it's great for peeling for your allies. Takes a little bit of getting used to. It takes a little bit to master that ability, but it is still very, very powerful, and a great talent to grab here at level 7. Just gonna mute the Discord sounds real quick. And going through here, level 10, we are going to go for Mosh Pit with this build. At level 13, you go for Groupies. This is just going to give you a little bit of heal for your allies. This makes ETC, just for the longer fights, those long duration fights, ETC becomes really valuable in keeping the team alive. And there are situations where you would want to go for Spell Shield if there's a lot of spell power in the enemy team and you're worried about that. You could definitely consider Spell Shield. I mean, Spell Shield, as a rule, is always viable. If there is just a lot of ability power on the opponent's team, we're talking mages, characters like Nova, you always want to look at Spell Shield and say, you know what? is it worth it? Did they go for triple tap? I'm gonna grab Spell Shield. There's just certain abilities that are just going to trigger this talent from always being good. But Groupies just has, you know, guaranteed value. You know you're gonna get a lot of healing off for your team, and it gets really, really useful in some of those longer fights. At 16 speed metal, Rockstar gives you that 20% movement speed for 2 seconds. A lot of the times e.t.c. extends pretty deep when he uses the power slide, and he needs a little bit of additional movement speed to not only chase. This allows e.t.c. to get really big body blocks. And you know, if you watch the top level, you watch pro players, you often see e.t.c. players just out body blocking their opponents like left and right. And talents like speed metal make this so so good for doing that kind of, making those kind of plays and just controlling the battlefield even more, and then just waiting, and then power sliding back or forward, you know, to get to safety or to pick up that final kill. Last but not least, we're going for Bolt. e.t.c, I mean, we're talking about Mosh Pit as being a big setup, and he's already got the power slide. Sometimes you're going to be power sliding in and bolting out. Other times you're going to be bolting forward past them and then power sliding back through to set up big plays. Bolt is just such a good talent. It's honestly kind of a waste to go for something like Storm Shield or Death Metal. Death Metal is kind of a weak talent, I feel personally. I don't really find it to be a really compelling talent. Tour Bus, on the other hand, is actually quite good. So if you didn't want to go for Bolt, if you're worried about getting that initial placement, right? We already have a lot of power to land those big mosh pits with Rolling Like a Stone and Double Neck Guitar at level 1 and 4. But if you really feel like you need a bit of extra mobility and extra setup to get those maximum mosh pits, you can definitely go for Tour Bus. But Bolt is also a great utility for getting in, and it also just has a little bit more flexibility than Tour Bus for also having the option to escape with Bolt of the Storm. So yeah, this is a very standard e.t.c. style. Again, this is the left style crowd control e.t.c, and we are going to be booting up a replay. It is from Esports Arena Heroes Rising event that was just a week ago. At this point in time, we're going to be watching Urho of Bob Ross fan club on Sky Temple here, playing a very standard e.t.c. build. Now, I probably have not updated this graphic. It looks like it's actually really bugged out. What happened here? I oversaved something. And, well, we're just going to delete my overlay. That is the safest way to fix this right now. Yes, there were actually 2 overlays there. How wonderful. Let's turn the sounds on, get some tunes playing, and we are going to be starting up in just a moment. Okay, this is just going to say Heroes Rising. 10 seconds. And we got sound. Sweet esports action, ladies and gentlemen. 4, 3. On the blue side, we've got Rafflecopter, Cladius, Battery, Huge, and Jason. That is Team Blaze on the right side. We've got Zuna on Falstad, McIntyre playing as Sonya, Urho on e.t.c. That's our boy today. Kenma playing Tyrande, and Fan on Rainer. Bob Ross Fan Club is what they are known as. Now, Sky Temple is a large map, and there's a lot of places that make e.t.c. a super valuable warrior. You think about just rotations in general, that power slide going forward, the follow-up of Sonya going in with the Ancient Spear, and that's just a lot of lockdown and a lot of damage from those 2 heroes. This boss pit, e.t.c. can land big mosh pits in these kind of areas. If you're ever going for a mercenary camp, these are very close, you know, small arrows with these choke points, like areas, not arrows. Lots of choke points where e.t.c. can hit big power slides and mosh pits if your team ever is caught funneling all together at once. And you have to be very careful of those kind of situations. Johanna is a very hard hero to eliminate, so she's just going to pop that iron skin and walk away unscathed. Penetrating around on Cladius just to buy some space there for Urho to prevent him from getting hit by all of those Wind Fury attacks of Thrall. But again, it's just a lot of rotations. Now, e.t.c. Tyrande is very much like Muradin Tyrande. We talk about the idea of Dwarf tossing in and then throwing out the Storm Bolt and then having that Lunar Flare and having a lot of lockdown. But it's the same exact idea with Power Slide. You saw it right there, just that follow-up. It is a stun-centric meta right now, and it's those kind of combos that are very prominent in Heroes of the Storm. It's actually rather uncommon in general to see Tyrande or Kael'thas make it through the ban phase, and in this particular game, they both made it through, which is actually really fun. Unfortunately, I don't have the draft on hand, and I don't remember it perfectly from the weekend, so I can't really comment as to why those 2 made it through the draft. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out in this game. Now, Urho is just kind of bullying. He's got that self-sustain. He's working on this top shrine. Middle shrine being controlled here by Claudius, and we have Battery and Yuge both looking to rotate down, just keeping Fan and Zuna on the backside. Nice barrel roll out there from Zuna, getting away. He's just going to go back to base. He can fly back on in. And he'll probably make his way down to the bottom lane to soak, because Tassadar has been soaking that left, you know, a little bit, trying to rotate down accordingly, but you know, just popping the Oracle, getting eyes on Fan. Top lane, we do see it's just Sonya hanging out there. Urho has rotated down with Kenma, and they're looking for the skills. Battery in the front line has now just popped Iron Skin, so they can wait for that to expire, and then he becomes a little bit more vulnerable, but a huge gravity lapse down onto Fan. Fan able to back away. We see McIntyre has rotated down, and the big damage going out, that is going to be a dead Thrall very early. Battery popping the Iron Skin once again, but the Ancient Spirit connects, and he will fall as well. 2 for nothing. Just the nice rotation there from McIntyre. The moment the fight was about to break out, he was there in the battle, and then just the triple stuns. These 3 heroes, they have that huge stun capability, and then the penetrating round to disengage when needed from Raynor, and it does a lot of damage as well. Just superior control in general. Now, e.t.c. is, in fact, going for the Q build, right? The rolling like a stone and the double neck guitar. It's all about the power slide, and he's got the additional range, the additional speed, and the additional width with it. And now this becomes a very, very, very difficult ability to juke. What I mean, in any situation, it's gonna come and it's gonna hit something. Even down a large path, you can just shoot straight down a path like this and hit several targets if they are all clumped up. And it looks like we do see e.t.c. is going from the top side. No, just decides not to actually dive in, realizing that there could be someone behind that wall, and it's not worth the risk diving onto the enemy's towers, playing a little bit safe and rotating down to bottom. Kael'thas is all alone down here. Ravelcopter v Zuna, but Urho not going to commit to anything quite yet. Looks like they want to work on these giants here in the bottom right side. A very safe choice. Now, this is a pretty early timing here on the Bruisers. They're going to cap these well before the second temple does end up spawning, and it's going to buy them, like, they're going to buy the attention of Bob Ross fan club into the top lane, but there's going to be giants down here, so both teams can just rotate down to the opposite lanes and defend accordingly. But it looks like Urho and Kenma might be looking for someone rotating down. No, they go down the mid lane. The Lunar Flare goes out, connecting there onto Thrall. The knockback there doing so much, and that's a huge part of this build. If he didn't have the additional range on the knockback from his speakers, it really wouldn't have picked up that kill. I mean, if you don't just keep rocking. Oh, excuse me. I actually mistook the talent. I thought it was going to be loudspeakers at level 7, but no, he went for just keep rocking. So that is actually my fault. That's actually a variant that, so, you know, we do see sometimes people go for that. And in this standard build, we often do see loudspeakers picked up as well. So this isn't exactly committing to the full-on 100% crowd control. He went for, you know, the reduced duration on stuns and silences and slows. And this is really nice when you consider gravity lapse, and of course Sundering can come out, and then the Wolf of Thrall, all a lot of lockdown. And Urho is often going to be extended, and if they're ever like trying to burst him down and lock him down, he wants to soak up all of their crowd control as often as possible. And just getting that reduction when he's got his ability active, it's going to allow him to get out of a lot of situations that could be much less favorable. So it's probably just a, you know, really smart talent pickup, especially when you consider the current meta and how centric it is for the crowd control and just the stun locking and stun meta in general. McIntyre not hit by the Wolf. Claudius throws it just underneath, and he's able to run away after hit by a chain lightning. And we do have all 10 members here in the bottom lane ready to duel this out. Yuge has been controlling the bottom temple, got nearly half the ammunition, which is quite good, but it is now under control by Bob Ross fan club, who are very close to level 10. When this tower falls, they're going to be dangerously close. Yes, super anxious to grab their heroics, and it looks like we don't see Blaze willing to commit to this fight quite yet. Hyperion has been cast the moment heroics were picked up. Shadowstalk, Mighty Gust, Wrath of the Berserker, and Mosh Pit. And we have Zuna flying on in. McIntyre with the flank, but the Condemn pulls him in immediately. Shadowstalk has to be used. Zuna is super low. Will end up falling here to Tassadar, but the Mighty Gust was sufficient to pick up just 1 kill. 2 for 1 in favor of Blaze in the situation. What I thought was a huge, a really good engage, just completely denied by Johanna. Heroics were picked up here. We do see the additional power slide range and speed being very beneficial beneficial for Urho to escape in that situation, but McIntyre is gonna go down here, and that ends up being a 3-for-1 trade, and they didn't even manage to do any damage to this fort, really. Big mistakes here, over-aggressive words here by Bob Ross fan club. Words are actually quite difficult. Shane Gucher with the resub. Thanks so much, my friend. I thought I turned the sound effects off, but wiggles for you later. All right, well, we do see that the rotations are happening. The bottom lane Giants being worked on, the offensive Giants in the situation. They have just spawned, actually. So this is a really nice pickup here from Team Blaze, just, you know, capitalizing on their superior control of the battleground right now, but they're sacrificing in top lane. Now, although we did see a lot of members fall on the side of Bob Ross, Fallside flew up here immediately and will actually end up getting a fort in the process. And sure, they might have lost their offensive Giant camp, but that's really not that much. We do have a huge 7-sided Drake going down on McIntyre, but it's not quite enough. Even with the Sundering, he stayed alive. They used the Mighty Gust to disengage the single target of which was Johanna. They got stuck there in the mosh pit all alone, and the one kill, the cleanup of the Knights, and after picking up that top fort, well worth it. Great defense, trading at 2 heroics for 2 heroics, and Bob Ross, they finally put themselves back ahead here in the game in terms of experience. Mid lane, Thrall and Kael'thas trying to push things out, trying to clean things up. We have e.t.c. making his way back up to the top lane. Just wants to soak this one wave of minions. Kind of risky to push past this point, especially when you don't have vision, you know, offensively on the map. You just don't know when the rotations could be coming. So he just wants to safely soak. The moment he realizes he might not be safe, he just even backs up, hit a few minions, and now he's on his way out. Yuge going in immediately, but he's just going to knock him back. G-Laps does connect, but we saw that reduced duration there. A very, very quick, you know, gentle landing for e.t.c. as the Gravity Lapse did not hold him up very long. That's the power of just keep rocking. He just wants to keep rocking. I mean, that's what it's all about, man. All right, Urho gonna push things back up here in the mid lane. Mid temple under control by Team Blaze, sieging up that mid fort, but the bottom fort has fallen. Zuna constantly pushing while the team has control of one of the temples, just realizing that he can not only get additional experience, he can save some of the ammunition for other structures, and he has the safe disengage. Between barrel roll and then the Mighty Gust, he can really get out of a lot of bad situations, which is why Zuna is so good on Fallside. He's the kind of player that likes to really go deep and really try to take those, make those risky plays, and it's working out here. The disengage force from this camp with that Mighty Gust, they managed to steal it. They do a fair amount of damage, and they're able to heal up in full with Shadowstalk, but they've spent a lot just to pick up that camp. Sundering comes out, does a lot of damage. Zuna getting hit by the boss. Urho in full retreat, barrel roll over the wall, and the disengage is here. Hyperion did a fair amount of damage, but the team is starting to heal up rather nicely, and Zuna's trying to hearth back home to reclaim some of his mana and get ready for battle. The final 3 shots were abandoned here in the bottom lane due to that engagement. They will be picked up by Team Blaze, who will get some damage to the top lane. The final remaining fort here of Bob Ross fan club, and we do see the Giants have been eliminated before they got any rocks thrown at the bottom lane's wall. All things considered, Bob Ross just ahead by a little bit, containing these front structures, and the back structures are full health here on the side of Team Blaze, so they're really not all too far behind. Experience about a half level lead for Bob Ross at this point in time. e.t.c. level 7 went for Showstopper, so I completely lied when I said that he was just going a standard build. This is something I should really stop doing, because I know we have a standard build replay today, but this is not it. Now, that's actually a good thing to point out, though, because we have 3 very different styles of e.t.c. in these replays, and although this isn't necessarily going to be the you know, the hybrid, just you pick the level 1 talent and go all out like stun, but really focus on crowd control, he has Showstopper, and that's, again, this is a little bit more tank heavy, so he's going to have that damage reduction, which also works on something like 7-sided strike. Oh, huge 7-sided strike going down there with the Sundering follow-up. They're still not able to get the kill on Urho. He's just staying alive. The talent's really working out, and that reduced stun duration has made a huge difference. Big Lunar Flare connecting, getting the kill on Karazim, and McIntyre is going in, but the force wall forces the disengage, and that boss is just too formidable to try to take it out during the middle of a fight. A huge opportunity here to kill Jason. He will end up going down. Just Dimensional Warp after Prescience, not going to be able to survive today, and they're starting to work on this boss as it's a 3v5 situation. Now, Mighty Gust available in 3 seconds, so is Shadowstalk. So they are safe to try to take up this boss. They need to be careful because those living bombs are doing a ton of damage. Mighty Gust should just be used to safely disengage if they think they need it. McIntyre is getting very low himself. Urho dives forward with the power slide, and they get the 1 kill and disengage with Mighty Gust to make sure that McIntyre and Urho do not get pulled in and taken out by Johanna. Giants have been pushing for quite a while here in the bottom of the map, but they will not really do all that much damage, falling just to the minions. But the next wave is just about here. Boss will be keeping the rest of this bottom lane occupied for the next while. We do see top shrine is about to spawn here, and it looks like they will have full control. e.t.c not even putting his preference there, knows that they have the 16 advantage, knows the enemy team has to respond to this boss here in the bottom lane, and is just getting the additional soak. They actually have e.t.c in mid, getting 2 waves of soak. Zuna can fly up whenever he pleases. He's going to get the soak here in the bottom lane. They're just taking, you know, every bit of experience that they can get on the map and, you know, just pushing their advantage. It's what you have to do. A lot of teams, you know, on Hero League or Quick Match would sit there on that top shrine as 5 and waste the opportunity of collecting a lot of additional experience. So looking at level 16, since we do have it here, e.t.c ended up going for speed metal, and that's the additional movement speed on e.t.c, makes him very slippery. So between Showstopper, Just Keep Rockin', and Speed Metal, try to lock down e.t.c. This is actually really cool because this is kind of like the halfway point between the build that we're going to see out of King Caffeine today. He does a similar style, but it's a little bit, I mean, he doesn't even spec into the power slide at all at level 1. And then we see players like Sray that really spec full power slide when it comes to competitive e.t.c. Condemn goes in, but Urho able to walk away like it means nothing to him, and he is a-okay. And we do see the Phoenix was spent there, but it's a short cooldown, just 30 seconds before that cooldown's available. We did see Wrath of Berserker also spent there by Sonya and Shadowstalk from Tyrande. So a bit of a win when it comes down to it, but the Mighty Gust used on Claudius. Claudius does dodge the Hammerang, but the Power Slide goes forward. Huge heals coming out left and right. Sundering trying to buy some time. We saw the Mosh Pit go off, but not lasting very long. They still get the kill on Thrall. Huge. Super low. Will fall himself. Urho is very low. Gonna just back away from the fight. Rufflecopter gets that Arcane Barrier. Still not gonna be able to live through all the damage, and Battery is one of the only members remaining. Battery and Jason, 2 heroes standing. Ancient Spear on the tower, but Battery is gonna get out of this. Oh, just kidding. Penetrating around, and Zuna both going forward. Zuna has the heals from Shadowstalk to stay alive. Just Jason surviving right now. Does Zuna have his fly available? Will we see those cheeky esports plays? Let's find out. Let's see. Zuna, what are you gonna do, son? What are you gonna do? Fly is ready. I think he does fly forward. I think he does. I watched this tournament. Do it, Zuna. I believe in you. I believe in you. He's not going to do it. All right. That was a different game. I failed you, team. Mission failed. Well, the full disengage happens. Keep picked up 4 kills. 4 kills. 4 kills for nothing and a keep. On top of it, heroics, Shadowstalk, Gust, both low cooldown heroics. They're both available. And this is, of course, you know, just one of those big benefits. You can just kind of spam those just to get short advantages. And when your cooldown heroic is shorter than the enemy's death timer late game, like, that's so valuable. You can just pick up 1 hero. You can spend your heroic to displace 1 hero and get a kill. And, you know, that's all you need. Urho knew they'd be coming for the flank, waiting in the bush. Beautiful positioning. Shadowstalk had to be used. Tyrande getting rather low. Kenma has to sprint on out of there. Zuna, big damage in the backside. They're not focusing him. They're in the front line trying to get McIntyre, but they just cannot do it. And Tyrande with the Lunar Flare connecting there, and Claudius. Claudius will go down to McIntyre. Urho has been able to take a big brunt of the damage in the front line and is able to just defend and push them all away. And Zuna, who has been so far forward throughout the duration of this fight, just kept battling, kept dueling, and lives on. Kenma trying to kill Jason. Zuna goes forward. He's got the shield, and they pick up a 5 for nothing and defend their fort to boot. Temples have spawned. We have Zuna controlling this mid-temple. He's going to need Urho to take charge, and he's just going to go back to base, heal on up. He's so very low. No, he wants to actually help out. Shadowstalk is off cooldown, so yeah, might as well use that, heal up the whole team. And they can be very aggressive. McIntyre with all the self-sustain, going to go down to bottom by himself and control the bottom shrine, and that will be 2 keeps falling in a very short period of time. Top keep will collapse. Level 20 picked up here, and e.t.c, he should go for Bolt. That is the standard, but we'll see. Urho, I picked the wrong VOD. I know you. Yeah, you went Bolt. Good. We got something in common today, Urho. All right. Well, they're just kind of stalling out this bruiser camp until they're ready to push out. They want to refill the tank. Oh no, change of plans. They're just going to grab it now. Zuna's going to hearth back to base. They're making their way down to the bottom of the map, and they're getting ready to defend this bottom temple. Just kidding, it's out of ammunition already. McIntyre successfully gathered the entire thing, and the shields have expired, down to 80% health here on the core. It's at the point in time where Blaze needs to do like a do or die kind of play. They just need to take a team fight. They need to force a boss fight that could be a loss. The problem is they don't have something like Mighty Gust for that huge disengage. And Jason just got picked off like he's nothing. He didn't even cast an ability. The huge Hunter's Mark on him just made him melt like, in an instant. And the Sundering comes out for a attempt to spread the team out, but Huge is just too far forward. Zuna Bear rolling over the wall, 4 for nothing. GG, not even close, as Bob Ross, in a very, very decisive game. Now, I actually thought that this was going to be a full-on stun style ETC, and that's actually my fault. But we do have another replay that we're going to boot up where it's actually a very similar game. And the only big difference is it's a little bit more focused on crowd control and mobility. And we're going to take a look at that before we look at the full-on like super slippery ETC that we see King Caffeine play from time to time. So let's actually just kind of get that bad boy ready. Now, roughly, these are 2 builds that you could follow, right? The left side is full crowd control. Slip and slide is a little bit more hybrid. But what we actually just saw is this build on the right that you see, except the first 2 talents were the power slide talents. So there's, in-betweens work, but basically, generally, this is what you should be expecting to see. So really, when I made this graphic, I should have had all 3 of those styles listed for that graphic here, as well. Apparently, that's what we're looking at, and that is indeed what we do see in tournaments. There's a good amount of variety in e.t.c, which is why I wanted to make a video on him, and I think he's like a great example for warriors in general, right? There's just different styles that work out, and when it comes to the stun-centric meta, the warriors that are really standing out are the warriors that can get out of harm's way rather effectively. e.t.c has a lot of stun duration things that just prevent him from being able to burn down. He has power slide to quickly get out of the enemy team's big combos or big damage as it's coming out. And Muradin, he's got that Dwarf Toss. Johanna has Iron Skin. Those are really the heroes that we see really, really popular in the meta right now. They have both the stuns themselves, and they have the capability of getting out. Now, this is a game that we're loading up right now on Sky Temple, played by Srey. And Srey is, of course, now the new warrior of Tempo Storm. He is also the shot caller of Tempo Storm. And Tempo Storm performed, phenomenally here at Esports Arena, Hero Rising this past week. So what we see here for the compositions is we have Muradin, Falstad, Rhaegar, Thrall, and Jaina. And they're up against Zagara, Uther, Vala, Sonya, and e.t.c. So it's actually pretty common. We have these dive buddies. Goku's going to be on Sonya. e.t.c is going to be played by Srey. They're going to dive together. But on the back line, they have Vala. So instead of having I say Falstad, we have Vala. But also, instead of having the Mighty Gust, they have the Maw to set up. Now, Maw and Zagara and e.t.c have always been a very, very good pair together. And you can just think about the power that exists. If you land a 2 to 3 person Maw, you can just get a huge mosh pit after that. Or you can maw half the team and mosh the other half of the team. So there's a lot of really powerful options that exist. Problem being is Falstad, if he's not caught in those combos, he can just Mighty Gust to disengage. Also, Sundering exists. So this is kind of a cool dynamic where those huge combos exist and then the huge disengages exist as well. Of course, Sundering can be used aggressively, but we will see. All right, Prog Rock picked up here. So it is not the full stun style. I totally grabbed the wrong replays, and I'm a horrible person. But Prog Rock is actually quite interesting. Prog Rock, each regen globe you pick up permanently increases the healing per second for guitar solo. Sometimes when we see a more utility style ETC, you'll see Prog Rock paired with something like Groupies. Now, the cool thing about pairing Prog Rock with Groupies is this is just a lot of healing once you get to level 13. Your team will benefit greatly in the longer fights. Oh my goodness, Sonya dies immediately, so that is not a good start here. Goku a little bit too far forward, I guess, and took way too much damage. But when you have a dive buddy like Sonya, and when you're going to be in these longer fights, like Groupies is really, really going to give your team a boatload of healing, which is very beneficial in the long run. All right, so they're pushing this all back. They're getting everything nice and pushed out. And they're just going to make sure they focus on both of the temples. Rhaegar here in the top side of the map is just kind of waiting around, but he's going to see Sonya, and he should just back away. Even though he has wolf form, it's really not worth trying to contest a two-person approach here. He would just take way too much damage to make it worthwhile. Just trying to, you know, show that he's not afraid because he cannot be dismounted. One of the nice parts of Rhaegar as a hero. We should probably hide this. It is massive. All right, Saray standing on this. So right now, Tempest Storm is actually controlling both of these temples. Thrall doing his best to lane against KO. This is a hard thing to do. KO has phenomenal creep spread covering the entire bottom half, but he doesn't really have vision of anyone rotating down. But it's so uncommon for someone to rotate down during a temple phase. You know, if they do that, that is already a win. But they're rotating up, going to the top temple. Goku goes down to the Ancient Spear onto Falstad, not really doing any damage. Soldier and Goku both have to tap the well and try to heal back up. But the fact that Tempest Storm managed to control the top temple for what, almost half of its ammunition while controlling the middle temple is already like a huge win for them. And of course, Zagara is going to be winning the bottom lane. She's just a phenomenal laner, continuing to get the creep spread out more and more, and then just getting full eyes on while pushing out most of the ammunition from the bottom lane. Mid temple going all the way to Tempest Storm. They will get those final shots off, and just, oh nope, gonna get forced off at the last moment, so the final shot will go to our red team. And we do have Goku rotating back now. Now, Sonya is one of the best heroes in the game at soloing a Merc camp, so you could go for those bruisers right now. Like, if you wanted to just go for the bruisers immediately after this phase and pick them up, you could. But again, we talk about this a lot on this map. It's not the most efficient time to take bruisers. You want them as a distraction for the second temple phase when the bottom temple is spawning, so you have a distraction in the top lane. If it's not responded to or doesn't have bruisers against it, will do guaranteed damage, especially after you did a lot of damage in the top lane already. When the wall is exposed, this makes this fort very weak, very exposed. All right, Falstad throwing out the hammer ring, not going to connect with Zix. Ray coming up, looking for that power slide. Level 4 talent for e.t.c. was a double neck guitar. So he went halfway. He went for prog rock, he went for sustain, and then he went for the speed and additional width. So he didn't go for the additional length, but he's still going to have stronger stun capability with this. And the additional speed is one of the bigger parts to it because it's just so much harder to juke, and it gets him out of a lot of situations much more effectively. Imagine if there was a wolf coming your way, a big storm bolt in route, it's much easier to dodge those abilities when you have that additional 30% speed picked up here from double neck guitar. All right, bottom lane, Thrall trying to push out KO with the Giants. It's looking rather effective, but he jukes the Wolf, and KO can just march forward and take out these Giants rather easily. Still a ton of creep spread. Thrall is not a good hero for removing creep. If you're spending your Wolf just to try to walk over this creep tumor to reveal it and kill it, you're spending way too much mana. And Thrall's not the most mana efficient hero. Now, you can spec him to be relatively mana efficient. We do have some mana restoration here from Rolling Thunder, but it's still not the way you want to do it. It's really not worth it. And you just kind of have to concede it until your team rotates down and you have other options, like maybe Thunderclap from Murd and is good for it. Jaina can sometimes hit minions or enemy heroes with Cone of Cold or Blizzard as she's attacking. Zagara's creep in general is just, if you don't have a good response, it is just so obnoxious. All right, well, we see Tomster is just getting a little bit of poke on himself from these roaches, but he does have the self-heal. That's the one thing he has going for him, and he is able to lane relatively well against Zagara due to that self-heal. Bottom temple is picked up, but e.t.c. picked off here in the top lane, overstaying their welcome, trying to push out their knights. They end up losing e.t.c. They lose their knights, and enemy team has knights marching in. So this is a bit of a problem. Bottom lane might be under control here from Zagara with all this creep spread, but they're down a hero for another few seconds. They don't have anyone defending that knight camp in the top lane, and experience is in favor of the red team. So if they manage to control this temple long enough to take one tower, and these knights take out a tower, they're gonna have level 10 and like just like that, and that is a problem for Tempo Storm. e.t.c. getting back on into it. Just a moment will be here, and yes, he's gonna rotate down. The level 7 talent, and we already talked about it, Just Keep Rockin', was picked up in every single game that we're going to be seeing today, I believe, just because of this stun-centric meta. It's all about denying the durations of their stun and staying mobile with e.t.c. And, you know, it's kind of hard to make a case for something like loudspeakers if there's so many stuns in the enemy team. But otherwise, loudspeakers is still a very good tool for rotating. Now, we don't see it in this game. We didn't see it in the last game, and we probably won't see it in the third game. But it is definitely a talent that we do see in competitive heroes. All right, well, mid lane, we have the Orc boys pushing out those towers, Thrall and Rhaegar. being best friends. They are best buddies, and they pushed all that down. But they're making their way down to the bottom lane, knowing that they have the heroics for both teams, actually. But we do have Tempo Storm being rather split. Soldier on Vala still in the top lane, gonna reclaim this watchtower. The temple has expired all of its ammunition, but it is a 4v5 in the bottom lane in favor of Team Red. I don't actually remember what this team's name was. I wasn't actually familiar with them. I know a lot of the players, but I do not know their team name, so apologies for calling them Team Red in this game. Saray and Goku working on this giant camp. They will get it, but the giant camp has also been picked up here on the red side. And Tempo Storm is just kind of rotating around, making sure they are getting as much soak as possible, actually reclaiming the experience lead for the first time in a while. And that is quite good. My Twitch title says I'm playing Star Citizen. That is very unfortunate. Thank you for the heads up. I always do this. I'm terrible. I'm the worst. Thanks so much. Anyways, back to the game. Bottom lane, rather exposed here, but the Giants aren't really going to do anything. The power of Thrall and Jaina, they're just staying back safely, and they're just going forward, pushing them down as they cross that line, and they have been eliminated. In terms of kills, it's 2-1. We've actually seen e.t.c picked off a total of 1 time Sonya, 1 time Goku and Saray. Just getting locked down from that big damage of the Wolf, and then Jaina's damage. Double stuns are powerful, but now that we're in the late game, we'll see how things look. In terms of heroics, Ancestral Heal with Sundering, Water Ellie. This is like the Sundering and then the Mighty Gust can really, really disrupt the enemy team. You can split them in half and then gust half the team away. Water Ellie to chase a flanked target as well. There's a lot of cool control that this team has available for them, but you also have to talk about just the raw power of getting a Maw into a mosh pit with a strafe behind it. Oh, this is rough. Ziggs has to rotate up. He actually Divine Shields really early, but the stage dive comes in from across the map. e.t.c making the plays that they need. Ancestral Heal goes off, but that big Maw, we talked about it, connecting there, locking them down. Thrall has made his way up here finally, but the Sundering has to be used to disengage, and you know, the camp might not have been picked up. A lot of heroics were spent, but that was a situation that without stage dive could have been a lot dicier from Tempo Storm. Now Ziggs did pop the Divine Shield a little bit preemptively. I think there was almost like a panic button, just throwing that Divine Shield on to try to stay alive in that situation. But you know what? It worked out. In the end of the day, Tempo Storm did walk away with all of their limbs intact. They're now controlling the bottom fort, where the bottom temple, where the bottom fort will ultimately end up falling. All right, bottom temple going down. Top temple will fall on the side of Tempo. Zagara getting this push out in mid lane, and I guess that's the one thing to point out is that Tempo Storm is getting pushed in 2 lanes. They're getting soaked in 2 lanes, while we have Red Team opting to just go for a Bruiser camp. So Bruiser camp going to march down top. Top is where they just took out a fort already, so that will be a huge, a very, very pushed out lane for them, which is actually quite beneficial. But Tempo should have time to respond to it. They're making their way down bottom. Creep spread continuing to be phenomenal here for Tempo Storm, just covering the map, denying any approach from this whole sector, and they have to start responding to it. I mean, Killzone, Kiluzion? That is a hard name to say. I'm going to call him Kill, is going to start using that Thunderclap to clean them up. And these 2 Bruisers that were attempted to be picked up earlier that have been left here all alone are going to be cleaned up rather quickly by Goku, Ziggs, and Soldier. Saray, will he help? No. He just wants to watch. He just wants to watch. Spreads his arm and watches like a beautiful butterfly. All right, mid fort. Tempo Storm being engaged on Kiluzion, going forward. Power Slide just getting on Tomster. Now, not having the additional range makes it so you can't close that gap quite as much, but we did see it still used in an effective manner to just kind of force them back. It hit Thrall, kind of, denied them any further entry into that area, and they have to back up. They're working and trying to clean up some of this creep spread because it is revealing their location, working on those Giants. Tempo knows they're more than safe to pick up these Giants as they just saw their got eyes on the enemy team, so they'll grab their Giants. They have the Knights to push out this top lane, which was getting very pushed out, but fortunately really didn't take any damage, and Tempo is just kind of keeping things very even. Honestly, there's no advantage whatsoever. I mean, structurally the game is just about dead even. Experience, sure, half a level for Tempo Storm can add up, but it's not like they're that close to 16 quite yet. So it's not even a huge window. If we do see a lot of structures going down, the experience will even up very quickly. They just need to be worried about the flanks. Kiluzion, very good presence of mind, just realizing that somebody might be hiding in that bush, trying to collapse on them. e.t.c does have stage dive. Now this is something that we talk about as being like very powerful on tall maps, larger maps. Sky Temple being one of the tallest maps, if not the tallest map in the entire game. Saray can come up here to the top lane, and he can just, you know, do whatever he wants. And the moment that the fight breaks out, he can stage dive in. Falstad also has that ability with Fly. But, you know, it's just really cool to see stage dive used in a competitive match. I don't know if this is something that they intended to do, to be completely honest, but I like it a lot. I feel like it probably was intended. It's just so uncommon that you always have to ask that. It used to be actually very popular in the meta. We saw like some really epic boss steals with Mosh Pit, where e.t.c would come from across the map and they would steal the boss in something like Cursed Hollow. And I'm just glad to see the resurfacing of stage dive here in the competitive heroes meta. Tomster walking forward there with his Wind Fury, but being poked gently by little roaches. And we do have Dark Chimera working on this bottom temple. Now remember, global mobility for these two top heroes. e.t.c stage dives in, and that means the start of the fight that was the sloppiest observing the world has ever seen. But the stage dive secures them control of the bottom temple. Not even half the ammunition was picked up. They're now controlling it. They have level 16, and that's when they chose their time to go in. And e.t.c goes for speed metal here. So we're consistently seeing speed metal. Groupies, we talked about the synergy with Prog Rock. That is a very powerful combo if you're worried about sustain on your team. Now, Uther has big heals, but he doesn't have a lot of AoE healing. So I like the idea of going for Prog Rock and Groupies to really have all that heal for your team. Kaluzian trying to get out of there. We saw e.t.c go forward, pick up that kill, the power slide, and then the knockback. Very nicely done, but Sundering comes out, but so much damage followed up with that. Divine Shield has to be used. Maw on 3 targets. Talking Trees in the backline. Goku just waiting. No, too long. Wasn't ready to go in, and Tempo Storm is just getting picked apart. The dead Uther trying to get those heals off. Dark Chimera did manage to live. And the fortunate side is that Soldier and KO are both still standing, so they do have the big damage dealers, so they can at least dissuade like a boss pickup since they have all that power. And e.t.c, when he is in fact back alive, he can stage dive into the battle because it will be off cooldown, just 2 seconds away from being off cooldown. But definitely a favorable fight here on the side of our red team, just getting that very quick pick off at the start of the fight on e.t.c. Soldier working on pushing out top lane. We do have the bottom temple now. The final shots going to the red side. And that bombardment will go to this bottom lane, taking out 1 tower, and level 17 has been achieved. So experience has once again been leveled here in this game. Anything interesting being picked up? No, pretty standard. Autotech Falstad, a full Q Rhaegar with Feral Heart. Don't always see Feral Heart. And yes, Tempest Fury, Grace of Air, and Numbing Blast. Numbing Blast is so very good against those melee heroes like Sonya, and can oftentimes just change the entire layout of the fight if you manage to land a big Numbing Blast to root them. But, you know, that's another big calling for Just Keep Rockin' to deny that Numbing Blast its sweet, satisfying, you know, root, because that will massively reduce the effectiveness of it if e.t.c isn't locked down. Okay, well, we see the Bruisers picked up here on the left side by Tempo, and the red team is just swarming over the left side of the map, and they're just getting control of. They want to just burn down this Bruiser camp to get the superior push out of their Bruisers, but they need to be careful when doing this. Now, Goku and Saray have shown themselves, but the rest of the team is right around the corner. Falstad can fly in if needed. Sundering goes out very early in the fight, and I think it might have been a little bit preemptive. e.t.c in the middle of the battle has to back away. Saray barely getting on out. The huge Mighty Gust from Frozen X pushing them back into the battle. Frozen very low himself, and Dark Chimera going for Saray. He does have the Prog Rock, keeping himself alive. It made all the difference there in terms of him surviving, but Soldier on the backside looking at Talking Trees does pick up the kill. Stormbolt onto Soldier. He needs to vault forward. We see the heals going in from that Blood for Blood, but is it enough? Zix, does he have the heals? Wow, but e.t.c is back in. He hearthed back in with that stage dive, able to re-engage in this battle. Power slide forward onto Tomster and Tempo Storm. It's like having a Brightwing on your team. Since stage dive was off cooldown, he was able to get full health and re-engage into the middle of the battle. Such a massive power of that hero. Now, the only reason e.t.c survived in that fight, I hit B, and this is always a risky thing to do because a lot of the times this will break your replay client. I gotta hit it again, and this is, I think I broke it. I lost my mouse cursor. It's gone. Yeah, I broke it. We're just gonna sacrifice our mouse cursor. We're gonna sacrifice our ability to actually navigate this game, and we're just gonna keep going back all the way to this point in the fight. I think this will be enough. All right, so Saray, super low here. We saw Falstad just use this Mighty Gust, pushing everything up, keeping himself alive, and disengaging that fight. e.t.c. is being chased by Dark Chimera. And Dark Chimera, he doesn't have Feral Lunge, he doesn't have a lot of damage, but there's a Water Ellie and a Rhaegar chasing Saray, who is incredibly weak at this point. Now, if it wasn't for this Maw, Saray would have already been dead. But we saw that beautiful Maw coming out of KO, buying the time for Saray to actually get out of this fight. Those are the two big damage dealers that want to kill him. And Saray is able to walk away. Between his self-heal, like Prog Rock and Groupies, mainly Prog Rock, giving him enough healing to survive that situation, and then Power Slide, he's able to slip away. Now, all the fights happening here. Soldier in the back line, this is when Soldier goes in with the strafe. It does a boatload of damage right here. We see that they just lost Goku on Sonya. Is going to start like doing a lot of damage. We see Falstad falls. The ice block has been used to negate the damage. KO falls here from Tomster, and Saray just starts hearthing. And this might look like the worst play in the world, right? It's like, oh gosh, their tank. He could just get a heal from Ziggs. He's got a lot of mana left. You know, whatever. That's bad. But he trusts that Soldier's able to get out. Blood for blood is used. Soldier's staying alive. Ziggs is rotating up for a safe position. The Hearth has been completely cast. e.t.c. back here. Immediately starts stage diving, and that's when you're going to see this marker go down. And this is like such a freaking cool play because they juke. It's a 2v3. Red team's thinking, man, we got this. This is easy. Tempo Storm, you know, it's a free lunch. But nope, e.t.c.'s in the battle. Oh no, what do we do? He's behind us. Oh god, this is awful. And bam, Power Slide 4. They find Tomster. They're going to pick off Tomster in just a moment. Just kidding. Kaluzion, they kill someone. Yeah, there we go. And they turn it around. So the power of stage dive is definitely significant, but I mean, yes, mosh pit is very good, so it's hard to justify giving it up in a lot of situations. But just for the split soak and the flexibility of being there in a moment's notice, and then those kind of plays really make a case for stage dive as a really fun and a really interesting heroic. And a lot of huge props to Soldier for surviving. Soldier being on an assassin, Soldier is probably the hardest hero or hardest player to land your stuns on. I think Zoe was actually mentioning that K1 Pro was saying Soldier is the absolute hardest person to kill in the entire game. And I always thought that he was a better flex player than a warrior player. And you know what? I stand by that decision after seeing him back on an assassin role, back playing heroes like Vala. The guy is just a monster. He knows his limits, and he knows how to get out of the worst situations. And that situation right there was a pretty bad one. And he survived long enough for e.t.c. to get in there and live through all of the oncoming damage. Tempo Storm has level 20 Storm Talent, so they're going to be able to control this top lane. In e.t.c. actually upgraded his stage dive. So he's going to go for Encore, I believe it's called, where it reduces the cooldown depending on every hero that you hit. And that's actually quite scary. Double stage dive in a battle can be really powerful, but it also just gives you more flexibility with the ability in general. Boss was picked up under the nose of Tempo Storm, but they control the top temple in its entirety, which is guaranteed damage, and the boss isn't quite that in itself. So we do see the structures have taken a bit of damage in the backside of Team Red, but Tempo Storm, they need to defend this boss. They are actually looking to push out a little bit. No, they realize they are backed away, not going to go for the fight, just going to try to defend this boss here. And now Red Team is making their way back on in. This Mutalisk is revealing that they are working on this giant camp, so Temple's well aware that they're safe to continue defending this boss without being collapsed upon. But they're just keeping their eyes out, backing away, forcing the enemy team to be careful. Falstad flying to the top lane, and they're just going to defend the boss before it actually does any real damage to the keep itself. But the wall has fallen, and that's very valuable. 4 giants here in the bottom lane that have to be picked up. That's going to be, an easy job at this point in the game. And all the while, level 20 is just around the corner for the red team. They'll have the Storm Talents. There they are, back on even footing. We see Bolt picked up. Falstad probably going to go he's going for Nexus Frenzy. Gonna go for those big auto attacks. He wants to burn down those 2 warriors, and of course Uther has a large health pool as well, so a very smart pickup. And it looks like rewind there for Rhaegar. Those the double Q is it's so strong, just so much healing. When you spec into your chain heal, it can do massive healing for your team. Now this camp is just about to spawn, and we saw it spawn right there. Red team is well aware. They're watching the timers. They were just waiting in the bush, but they poke their heads out the moment Temple Storm is poking in to see if they are around. So both teams really knowing that that's the one thing to contest right now, considering the right side Merc camp hadn't been touched. Tempo knew something was suspicious. Very even in terms of structure, slightly in the favor of Tempo, who have a 1-level lead. 10 seconds until this temple spawns. Looks like we have Red going to back up, grab this mercenary camp, just going to give them a bit of push in the top lane, and then they'll likely just try to sit and soak on the bottom temple. Oh no, they don't want to give it up. They know that they're behind when it comes to structures, and it's not a good idea to just pass up structures. They have the mercenaries in the top lane, so that's already a map control advantage for them. They're just looking to keep Temple Storm busy as long as possible. Temple controlling this middle keep, or this middle temple, did manage to get the middle keep down. Top keep is getting low, but a lot of damage going out. The huge heals coming from the self heals, the heals of e.t.c, and then of course Zix with the big fat heals himself. Sage dive going forward, gonna land and kill the Falstad, knocking everyone back. We saw Jaina have to bolt of the storm away to safety, but the Mutalisk go down, not quite enough to kill. A lot of damage onto Rhaegar. Jaina falls as well. Soldier knows his limits and is able to do a fair bit of damage with that heal of Uther. They're going to be able to collapse on Tomster, just kind of split up and chase him down. He's actually going into the side of Temple Storm. This is strategically to just buy as much time as humanly possible to help his team survive, if, you know, as long as they can. But at the end of the day, there's going to be 2 temples controlled by Tempo Storm. 4 heroes have fallen, and honestly, the staggered death at this point is probably worse. I don't think it really matters, though. Having 2 temples controlled, that will be all 3 keeps falling on the side of the red team, and that should be just about game, because the core will sustain a fair bit of damage. This bottom temple just about out of ammunition, but there's another half of ammunition remaining on this top temple. We see that keep about to fall. Yep, there it goes, and it's just going to take out the final towers. Not actually enough ammunition on it to delete the core, so Temple Storm might not actually go for a core dive quite yet. Fortunately, my mouse is bugged out, and I can only wiggle the camera around instead of clicking the minimap like a good observer would, but I'm actually just a terrible observer in general, so we have to deal with it. The observer client still has many bugs, and I should really get around to reporting them someday. All right, they're working on this Merc camp on the left side, going to get this top lane pushed out. Catapults in all 3 lanes for Tempo Storm, and none of their keeps have sustained any damage. Fortification standing on the outside of, still on the top and middle. Bottom lane is exposed from that boss a bit earlier. Merc camp's picked up in 2 lanes, and Tempo can look to do whatever they like. They can be very aggressive. e.t.c going to continue split pushing. Push out that top lane as hard as he can. Escort the catapults, escort the knights, and really get that lane pushed out, because he can stage dive wherever he wants to go. He's a very hard hero to lock down. Now, the core did take a little bit of damage, down to 93% health. And as they do get these lanes really pushed out, they can just, you know, force red to continuously defend. Look at this. They don't really have full presence of mind as to like where. They don't have full vision on the enemy team. Presence of mind is not the right term. They don't have vision on the red team, so they backed up a little bit. Once they got eyes on the top lane, they're starting to push out again. They just know that they don't want to get collapsed on. Sundering can, you know, really end things for Temple Storm. They're just playing very safe, and the boss is up, so they're going to look at starting it here, or they're going to look to ambush. They have this creep spread. They're moving on up. They've got their Cloud9 mounts on. And yes, Kaluzion steps forward himself, taking a bit of damage, but of course Rhaegar has the very powerful heals this late in the game, especially when you consider he has Rewind on top of it. Double chain heal plus Ancestral can get just about anyone out of a bad situation if needed, but you don't want to spend those abilities right off the bat. We do see the Giants being cleaned up here by Talking Trees. Had to fall back because these lanes are continuing to push out due to the catapults and the mercenaries that were in them. And this is not the way you want to start a temple phase. Just 1 temple in the bottom. The lanes are completely pushed out, and e.t.c is making his way to the bottom, but they're well aware of what could be happening. Tempo is waiting. They want to do a 4-man push into the top lane, and they left e.t.c, who has stage dive once again, just flexing that mobility here in the bottom. Once they get eyes on 2 to 3 members, which they just got eyes on, there's 4 members here in the bottom lane. Tempo is going in. Saray did enough damage just from a few shots. The shields are down. Oh, we gotta scroll all the way over, and now Tempo Storm will promptly end the game here in the top lane. Sundering used in desperation. The Maw used to buy some time. Zix does end up falling on Uther, and esports. Esports. A lot of different e.t.c builds today. You know, that style of just The prog rock with groupies for all that self heal. It worked out in multiple situations. Come on, mouse, you can do this. We can do this. Blizzard, please fix this. It's so wiggly. I've done this before. I know. Yeah, I thought I had it. I gotta click faster. This is me trying to Alt F4 the game. I don't want to have to Control Alt Delete the game, Blizzard. God. All right, we're gonna Control Alt Delete, boys, because this is actually the hardest game I've ever played. It looks like I'm clicking it. Task Manager. Bam. All right. Well, the power of Stage Dive. You saw it here. Pretty decent ability. Now, up next, we're going to look at a replay from King Caffeine on Tomb of the Spider Queen, where King Caffeine shows us a very flexible style, a little bit less oriented on improving his stuns and more focused on being as slippery as possible. Very utility in as it can be. And it's not my mouse that's bugged; it's the game client stuck in the center of the screen. So that's nothing I can do. But before we get to that section, I just need to take a very quick break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned.